Walgreens is one of the biggest pharmacy chains in the world. Yet, over the past decade, its market cap has fallen 90%, or about $100 billion in market cap. To make matters worse, in 2024, it announced plans to cut 1,200 stores. What happened? As it turns out, it's not just Walgreens or one big scandal, but something much deeper. The entire industry is going through a metamorphosis, which might make things worse for all of us. To understand what's really happening, we have to understand the mechanics behind pharmacies. In the US, there are two pharmacy titans, Walgreens and CVS. To most people, they might as well be the same company, gigantic chains of slightly more expensive pharmaceuticals. But there is an important difference, which explains why Walgreens is dying. Walgreens was seeing slow and steady growth from $12 billion in 1996 to $77 billion in 2014. But they wanted to grow bigger. So in 2014, they completed a merger with another gigantic pharmacy, Alliance Boots in Europe. The new Walgreens Boots Alliance was now a titan, from a market cap of $57 billion to over $100 billion. But after the merger, even with much more revenue, things didn't look so good. Earnings initially doubled from $3 billion to $6 billion, but then they quickly began to decline. Then in the 2020s, they went into freefall. Now, let's pivot to CVS, who had a very similar path until 2006, where they acquired a company called Caremark. Not a pharmacy, not a health insurance company, but a pharmacy benefit manager. This will become important later. Then, in the late 2010s, they began to ramp this up. They acquired the health insurance company Aetna in 2018 for about $69 billion. Then, Signify Health in 2023 for $8 billion, a home health and care coordination company. And then Oak Street Health, who provide primary care clinics, for $10 billion. CVS had big plans and very different to Walgreens. Now, let's jump forward to today. Things are pretty bad in the US pharmacy industry, but how bad? Well, looking at Walgreens' revenue, it doesn't seem bad at all. After all, it reached a record high of $150 billion in 2025. But let's look closer. Revenue is still growing slowly, but Walgreens' profits have gone cliff diving. $7 billion in profit in 2021 to a $4.6 billion loss in 2022, and by 2024, a loss of $13 billion. Its share price has dropped 90%, and in 2024, it announced plans to cut 1,200 stores, including 500 in 2025. But what's even stranger is how different this is to CVS. CVS has stayed profitable, and despite some drops, has stayed far above the red, with $10 billion in profit in 2025. Yet, between 2022 and 2025, CVS also closed 900 stores, and that trend is continuing.
And Walgreens is on track to close 450 locations this year. The pharmacy giant says it's part of a larger plan to close 1,200 underperforming stores over the next 3 years.
What's going on? Walgreens and CVS are closing stores left and right, yet only Walgreens is dying. What's happening? There's something we need to address first. Retail has changed, and that includes your over-the-counter or even prescription medication.
What if it was this easy to get your medication? Like, never wait in a line, delivered to your door, don't even have to stop what you're doing, easy.
Really?
Yep. Introducing Amazon Pharmacy. Now you can get your meds delivered just like everything else.
Many can now order these from Amazon, and even prescriptions can be delivered the same day. Not only that, many people receive regular pharmacy products automatically every month with a subscription and save. After COVID-19 especially, many people have changed the way they shop for day-to-day goods, which puts pressure on the pharmacy chains. But why Walgreens and not CVS? Even though both chains are closing, there's that massive difference that's beginning to squeeze Walgreens. For starters, Amazon is actually just copying CVS. In 2004, it acquired Eckerd Health Services and began using its mail order system for pharmacy medication. CVS has been way ahead of the game, but mail ordering isn't even the biggest part. To find out, let's take a quick look at the two giants' financials. In its Q2 2025 financial statement, Walgreens' retail pharmacy segment made $30.4 billion in revenue. That figure is 78.8% of Walgreens' revenue, almost 80% from retail pharmacy alone, and just 5.6% from healthcare at $2.2 billion. What's the problem? Well, when we compare Walgreens to CVS, the picture becomes clearer. In CVS's latest quarterly statement, they stated pharmacy revenue was $31.9 billion, just slightly bigger than Walgreens, yet it was only 34% of the total revenue. Healthcare benefits, aka health insurance, was $34.8 billion at 36.8%, and health services was the largest at 45.9% at $43 billion. Walgreens is extremely reliant on retail and the old retail pharmacy model, but CVS pivoted. This is where that vague health services comes in. It's almost half their revenue, but it's not retail prescriptions or health insurance. What is it? Well, this is Caremark, CVS's Pharmacy Benefit Manager or PBM, and this is huge, but also very confusing, so bear with me, because once we uncover this, we see what's really happening. This is how pharmacies work. It starts with drug manufacturers like Pfizer, who set a price of $500 for something like Lipitor. The wholesaler buys it from Pfizer at a discount of $300. And when you fill your Lipitor prescription, you hand over $25. Earlier, the pharmacy bought that bottle from the wholesaler for about $300 though. So, how do pharmacies make profit? Well, they don't technically go to the wholesaler. They submit the claim to the PBM. They set the recommended list of drugs that insurers and pharmacies look at. So they say to the drug maker, if you want your drug on my preferred list, send me a cut after every bottle sells. This is called a rebate, and this is where the real money is. Your insurer pays the PBM the original price of $500 and a pharmacy dispensing fee of $10 minus the $25 you paid, so $485. So how do PBMs make any money here? Well, that's where the rebate comes in. Behind the scenes, Pfizer pays the PBM the $200 difference, which they pocket. They'll also typically demand a bit back from the pharmacy, saying they overpaid like $50. This is a clawback. So Walgreens here, from the $510 minus $50 minus the original $300 price they paid, makes about $160 in profit. It's a very complicated process with a lot of parties. You, your insurer, the pharmacy, the drug maker, the manufacturer, the wholesaler, and the PBM. But the PBM is what matters here. They don't make the drug, they don't sell the drug, they don't even insure you, yet they make possibly the biggest margin here. Walgreens has a pharmacy with some other services, but CVS is a pharmacy and a PBM. In fact, CVS owns the biggest PBM in the US with 34% market share. When they do the whole process of rebates, they get to pocket all of it. Walgreens only takes a smaller margin right at the end, but this is getting worse. PBMs have slowly pushed generic drugs instead of named brands like regular paracetamol. In fact, now 90% of prescriptions in the US are generic brands. Why? They pay much less for them, yet can charge insurers almost the same amount and keep a bigger margin. They get a higher rebate and it's cheaper for the customer. But then there's the pharmacy. Walgreens and the other pharmacies have been getting squeezed. Since they buy generic brands much cheaper, they make much less. But somehow, PBMs still make a lot more, and they can still perform clawback fees even on generics. Margins are getting smaller and smaller, and that's the difference here. CVS insulated itself not just by adapting, but by becoming the ecosystem. It saw pharmacies as the doorway to make more money, not as the entire business. Healthcare, PBMs, pharmacies, primary care, home care, CVS has all of it. Walgreens, however, went all in on the retail pharmacy side. It was working, but they weren't diversified much at all. Almost 80% of revenue is from retail pharmacy alone. And now, margins are so small that many pharmacies aren't even making enough to cover the cost of staying open. But somehow, it still gets even worse. As of 2024, nearly 30% of all drugstores in the US have closed compared to a decade ago. Many Walgreens are closing stores due to low margins, yet stores are also facing massive costs elsewhere. In 2014, California passed Proposition 47. Essentially, shoplifting and theft crimes of goods under $950 would be a misdemeanor rather than a felony. Over time, this led to crime growing in California, but it wasn't until after the pandemic when police staffing dropped where things got particularly bad. The America First Policy Institute reported that California retailers face an onslaught of theft that threatens their economic viability, places workers in dangerous situations, and damages Californians' sense of safety in their communities. Fresno, Los Angeles, and San Francisco saw commercial burglary increase by 38%, 29%, and 26% respectively from 2019 to 2022. Over the same period, Alameda County and Orange County witnessed a 65% and 54% increase respectively in commercial burglary. Stores began to lock products behind glass doors or even chain freezers.
And this was bizarre, something I'd never seen before. This is just more icing on the cake, telling us that rampant crime has become a regular part of life.
So typical that in the 30 minutes we were at this Walgreens, we watched 3 people, including this man, steal.
Did that guy pay? Did that guy pay? He didn't pay.
But it still wasn't enough. Thieves can also just ask for certain products and take them once the shelf is unlocked while the employee can't stop them.
Customers also point to rampant theft at some locations. We captured this video of a man walking out of the Geary Walgreens with a suitcase full of beer and food that workers inside were saying he hadn't paid for.
The cost of theft for many stores was too high and many began to close, including Walgreens. But beneath all of this is another massive consequence.
This is one of the 12 San Francisco Walgreens that are set to shut their doors for good in February, and customers tell me stores like this are neighborhood anchors. San Franciscans throughout the city are learning their local Walgreens is one of those closing its doors for good next month.
The closures across the US and especially in California are creating pharmacy deserts. This is an area devoid of pharmacies, and this is a big problem. Even though shipping prescriptions is possible, a lack of pharmacies isn't good for a community. One study found that nationally, 15.8 million or 4.7% of all people in the United States live in pharmacy deserts. The lack of drugstores makes it harder for people to access essential medications, vaccines, and health advice. Seniors who need the most medication need to walk further to access care. Those in pharmacy deserts have a 3% drop in medication adherence and suffer worse health, and have 2.7% higher emergency visits. And as you would guess, these stores aren't closing in high-income areas with multiple pharmacies. Instead, pharmacy deserts are more common when more than 1 in 5 people live below the poverty line, or the average household makes a lot less than nearby areas. The healthcare industry has changed. On one side, you've got trusted mom-and-pop pharmacies. On the other, retail giants like Amazon, Walmart, and Costco, who run pharmacies as a side business. And stuck in the middle are chains like Walgreens and CVS, built for a world that doesn't seem to exist anymore. Yet, it seemed like somehow CVS saw this coming. They pivoted so they became part of the entire system, not just the stores. Whether that system is good is another question. Walgreens, however, dug their hole deeper with a gigantic acquisition of more pharmacies. Unfortunately, the trends didn't move in their favor, and now they're doing everything they can to survive. Over the years, we've racked up 160 million views, yet somehow we still haven't reached 1 million subscribers. That conversion rate is even worse than Walgreens' stock performance. My dream is to reach 1 million subscribers by the end of this year, and if you subscribe, we can actually make that dream a reality. But until then, I'm Hari, and I'll see you guys on the next one.